if you can let go of all responsibility, that life takes care of itself, that there's a natural harmony that's in perfect balance and is laced with wisdom that isn't owned by the person. I'd like to talk about something that I haven't really heard anybody else talk about, but has been a direct experience in my life, in my early life, that I didn't recognize what it was until maybe within the last year or so. And it's what I would call a reverse awakening. I think everybody's experienced this, but perhaps either hasn't understood its significance, or it happened so early in childhood that you don't remember it. But I do remember it, because it changed the way I lived for maybe the next 20 plus years. I was a very quiet kid and a very weird kid by many standards, probably most, because I was very much in the flow with natural life. I was often out playing in the grass with grasshoppers and caterpillars and bees and butterflies. Often with no sense of a me. And I recognize that now, because the sense of me has once again fallen away. But I remember being coaxed into a sense of me, and it was traumatic. I don't mean to be dramatic here, but it was very much a traumatic thing to be forced into personhood. And I remember it quite vividly. We were, I was maybe 6 or 7, maybe younger than that. Maybe 4 or 5 might be a better guess at this. But anyways, we were at a block party, and there were a bunch of kids and adults, and I was of course playing with the kids on a jungle gym. And I remember crawling up a yellow slide on a jungle gym in one of my neighbor's backyards. And as I was climbing up, my hand touched the hand of another adult who was standing beside the slide. And there was an electric, a static shock, like you often get from slides, as our hands touched. And I laughed as a kid, because it was just a funny thing that happened. It was just a happening. No one did it, and no one owned it. Or so I thought. But the adult looked at me and told me, "That's not funny. Don't do that." And in that very moment, I was drawn out of pure being, my pure innocence, and drawn into forced into believing that I did something. I was forced into the belief of I'm the doer. And further, that there are things that I shouldn't do. And all of a sudden I had to take great responsibility to do and to not do certain things. who produced that static shock when our hands touched? Of course, nobody did that. It's just part of what's happening. But when she told me, that's not funny, don't do that, it was a radical shift for me to all of a sudden conceive that, first of all, I'm the doer, and second of all, I shouldn't do certain things. Up until that point, there was just a flow with natural reality, and I wasn't separate from it. I wasn't a doer within it, and I wasn't a person, at least within my own framework of reality. I had really no framework up until that point. I was just a kid. I was just pure being, as most children are. And at some point, I think this happens for all kids, that were all of a sudden saddled with the responsibility of doership, and then to protect the doer, and to do and not do certain things. And then, of course, I spent the next 20 plus years of my life developing an ego so that I could better protect the doer and better control outcomes, so as to not electrify a situation. Negatively electrify a situation. And I would call that a reverse awakening. Because really what awakening is the falling away and dropping away of the sense of doership, or the sense of a me that needs protection, a sense of a self that needs guidance and is separate and distinct from the flow of natural and pure reality. And thankfully, that's again fallen away, and I can now enjoy life with the innocence of my early childhood. But there was a period of 20 plus years of great suffering that was caused by that single moment. And I think we've all had a moment like that. And if you can pinpoint that in your experience, perhaps like it did for me, you can then better relate to the space and beingness that occurred before that contraction of energy into person self. So if you can pinpoint that space, I invite you to comment it in the comments here and share that. Because as we make these shifts, it can be quite potent to read other people's and to relate to them, and then gain better insight into your own reverse awakening and awakening. These are things that happen naturally in people's lives, and I don't blame her. She too was caught in the concepts of doership and responsibility, not knowing that if you can let go of all responsibility, that life takes care of itself, that there's a natural harmony that's in perfect balance and is laced with wisdom that isn't owned by the person. And so of course I don't blame her. And I hope she has since found this freedom. And she was not mean or evil or anything like that. She was just a person. She was just a normal person. But being a normal person is a contraction within pure being, and is not the ultimate truth of your nature. So again, if you can relate to either this experience or have a experience of your own you'd like to share, please either share it in the comments below, or DM me, or share in your own way, however you feel fit. But these stories, I think, are important because it can help certain aspects of mind then reverse engineer personhood, and therefore drop the sinew and attachment of contracted identity. All my love.